Welcome to rSlash Am I the Butthole, where OP discovers that his fiancée secretly hates his kid. Am I the butthole for telling my fiancée that my daughter has to be in our wedding? I'm a 45-year-old man, and I have a daughter, Penny, from a previous relationship. I divorced my ex-wife on good terms, and we share 50-50 custody of Penny, who's now 11. After I divorced my ex-wife, I met my now fiancée, Sarah. Sarah and Penny get along very well. After dating Sarah for 5 years, I proposed. Sarah was super excited and wanted to start planning right away. She looked at venues and started asking her friends to be her bridesmaids. She then told me that she wanted her niece to be a flower girl, which I had no problem with, but I said that I also wanted Penny to be a flower girl. Sarah looked at me funny and then said that she didn't think that Penny would fit the part. I got angry and told Sarah that my daughter would be in our wedding. Sarah started to become upset and said that the girls in the wedding were up to her and that Penny wouldn't be one of them. I told Sarah that if Penny wasn't in the wedding, then there might not be a wedding. I stormed out and took Penny to get ice cream. Penny knows that we're getting married, and she told me that she thinks that she'll look pretty in whatever dress Sarah decides that Penny should wear. This broke my heart, and I decided to text Sarah. I told her that I'd be staying at a friend's house to think this over. My soon-to-be mother-in-law texted me saying that I overreacted and that my daughter doesn't have to be in the wedding and that I was a butthole for saying that I would cancel. So, did I take it too far saying that I would cancel? Am I overreacting or just being a good dad? OP, okay. I've got a daughter. If God forbid something happened to my wife and sometime down the road I wanted to get married to a woman and she said that my daughter couldn't be in my wedding, that is such a red flag that I would immediately call off the wedding, I would immediately break up with her, and I would immediately move on. I wouldn't spend time angsting about it. I wouldn't be sad about it. I wouldn't come to Reddit and say, hey, Reddit, am I the butthole for doing this? I'm not blaming you for making this Reddit post because you seem like a good person. I'm just saying this is such a clear and obvious, huge red flag that it is an immediate deal breaker for me. If my imaginary wife in this scenario can't even accept my daughter in the wedding, then how can I expect her to accept my daughter in daily life? Sure, Sarah's been good to your daughter for the past 5 years, but my guess is if you marry Sarah, then the evil stepmother activity will start. She wouldn't be the first person to show her true colors after the wedding ring is on the finger. And before I give judgment, it looks like we have an update. So this was posted same day. OP says, I came home to talk to Sarah today. When I pulled in our driveway, my mother-in-law was sitting there in her car. I got out and went inside trying to avoid talking to my mother-in-law. Sarah was sitting at the kitchen table and I joined her. Sarah was sitting there in silence, so I asked the first question, why does Penny not fit the part? And why don't you want her in the wedding at all? Sarah's answer full-on shocked me. She quietly said, I was hoping that after the wedding, you could become a holiday visit only dad. I didn't want her in the wedding so that she wouldn't be in the photos around the house, since she's not going to be around that much anyways. I kept my cool, calmly took her hand and pulled my engagement ring off her finger. Her eyes started to tear up. She said that we shouldn't end the marriage over this and that she can change. I told her the damage was already done. I told her I wanted her things moved out by the next week and that she could come get them when my daughter wasn't home. To be clear, the house is in my name and I paid for it. I was just allowing her to get the furniture that she paid for. She stormed out and my mother-in-law came knocking on the door saying that I was being unreasonable. I couldn't imagine only seeing my daughter 3 or 4 times a year. The fact that Sarah wanted me to give up part of my custody blew me away. I'm sitting on my couch just in shock. Our honeymoon was supposed to be in Hawaii. Looks like me and Penny will be going instead. I'll update if anything happens. Man, it's so crazy to me that someone can just lie like that day after day after day and be fake for 5 years. This woman apparently hates Penny's guts. She has raised Penny since she was, 6? From age 6 to 11, after 5 years of raising a child, she feels nothing. No empathy, no love, no affection, just, okay, well, bye, hope to never see you again. OP, this is a lot of red flags, man. This is a terrible woman. You dodged a huge bullet when she exposed herself like this. OP, I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving her, I think 3.5 out of 5 buttholes feels reasonable. Am I the butthole for leaving my sister's wedding early because she kept my husband out of the pictures? I'm a 31-year-old man, and my sister Anne, who's 34, got married on Saturday. My husband of 7 years, Mark, who's 32, was there with me, and up until one point, it was an amazing evening. After the ceremony, Anne wanted a picture with all of our siblings. There's 5 of us, and our respective partners, so we started lining up. When Anne saw that my husband was standing next to me, she shook her head and said something about him ruining the aesthetic. Apparently, her plan was to put one man and one woman next to each other alternately. My youngest sister, who's 18, doesn't have a partner and was standing on the very side, so she offered to stand between the two of us. That way, me and my husband could still be close while respecting Anne's wishes. I thought that was a great solution, but Anne disagreed and told Mark to get out of the picture. Mark is quite introverted and tries to avoid confrontation under all circumstances. So he simply complied and told me not to get angry. But it was obvious that he was hurt and disappointed by being left out. Obviously, it didn't stop me from getting angry, and I walked away with him. I can understand that Anne wants her wedding pictures to look exactly how she imagined them, but I think that the idea that my younger sister proposed was very reasonable. I congratulated Anne and her husband one last time, but then I said my goodbyes. When they asked me why we were leaving early, I said that I didn't feel like our presence was wanted. We left before dinner was served, and I took Mark out to his favorite restaurant to cheer him up a little. Anne has texted me since then saying that I was being overdramatic and making a fuss over nothing. Our parents have tried to remain neutral, but except for my youngest sister, the rest of the family supports Anne and thinks that leaving early was going too far, and that I should have just sucked it up instead of ruining her big day. Okay, here's the problem with this post. They said that OP should have just sucked it up instead of ruining her big day. Okay, her big day celebrating what exactly? That's right, celebrating her marriage, celebrating the beauty of two unified souls, of the sanctity of marriage. So, on this day of holy matrimony, it's okay for her to disrespect your marriage. The hypocrisy on this story is off the charts. If your sister who's getting married is merely being hypocritical and overly obsessed over stupid details, then I'll give her I think 2 out of 5 buttholes. But if she's secretly homophobic and has been judging you and your husband for your entire lives, then she gets 4 out of 5 buttholes. OP, I'm giving you, your husband, and your youngest sister who had your back 0 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for frightening my nephew and making him traumatized for life? I had a cookout at my place on July 4th. My 13-year-old daughter's Nintendo Switch goes missing. I talked to family members, and my wife's sister, Kara, said that my daughter gave it as a gift to her son, Stevie, for his upcoming birthday. For context, Stevie is 6. I asked my daughter, and she said that it wasn't true, that she let Stevie use it so they could all play Mario Kart together, and it went missing after the cookout. My daughter's upset, and I call Kara back, who insists the Switch is now Stevie's and my daughter is too old to play games anyways, or she'll outgrow it soon, which is why it was a gift to Stevie. She calls my daughter an Indian giver. After this, I contacted my uncle, who's a cop. My uncle and a few of his friends go over and threaten to arrest Steve and Kara over stolen property. Kara reluctantly gives it back after an incident with the officer that she could have been arrested for. The cops warn Stevie that the next time he steals, both he and his mom will go to jail. They let my sister-in-law go without incident. My sister-in-law says that Stevie's been crying nonstop and having issues sleeping because he doesn't want to go to jail. And she's blaming me and my family for traumatizing her son. My response might have been heartless because I said, I guess I'll never steal again. And Kara thinks that he'll be traumatized for life for making a big deal over a stupid game. Oh man. Okay, here's the thing. If you don't want to be arrested for stealing stuff, don't steal stuff. It's not complicated. It's simple. It's easy. Look at me. I'm doing it right now. I am not getting arrested for stealing stuff because I'm not stealing stuff. So, if Stevie doesn't want to get arrested for stealing stuff, maybe he should never steal again. OP, I'm completely on your side. You get 0 out of 5 buttholes. Kara and Stevie both get 3 out of 5 buttholes. I don't want to take too much joy in the suffering and angst of a 6-year-old, but is it really a bad thing if a 6-year-old is traumatized about not stealing? This isn't like PTSD trauma. Let's not make any mistakes here. This is just the guy's scared because he was in a scary situation and hopefully he never steals again. Am I the butthole for telling the lady 2 seats behind me on a plane that she was screaming the whole flight? I'm at the airport now. The lady 2 seats behind me on the flight was talking extremely loudly the entire flight. I had earplugs in and it was piercing those. After the flight landed, the lady across the aisle from me looked horrified and said that lady was on her next flight. I got up, walked back to the loud lady and said, "You guys are flying to Florida next, right? You may want to consider being a little more quiet on your next flight. I had earplugs in and I could hear you screaming the entire time." I turned back around and her boyfriend calls me a butthole. So I turned back and said, "What did you say?" And he called me a butthole. Then the girl chimed in and said, "We weren't even talking loud." I showed them the earplugs I had in my hand and said, "I had earplugs in my ears 2 seats ahead of you, and I heard all about Frank's wedding, your nail appointment, feeding your dogs, your cell phone bill, the TV shows your mom watches, etc. Am I the butthole?" No, OP, and I can tell you why you're not the butthole. Because if people talk at a normal volume just 1 seat ahead of you on a plane, then it's actually kind of difficult to hear them. You have to really pay attention and strain, especially because most planes are super, super loud noise, just that constant brrrr of the plane going through the air. I know this because one time me and my wife were flying, and in front of us there was this guy and this girl, and the entire flight they were flirting hot and hard with each other. And at the end of it, they exchanged numbers, and my wife looked at me and she was like, "Looks like someone's got a hot date tonight." And I said to her, "Yeah, did you notice the wedding ring on the guy's finger?" And immediately my wife was like, "That cheating bastard." So I had in-flight entertainment. It was a little bit hard to hear because they were talking in a normal tone of voice, and I really had to concentrate to hear their juicy gossip about how they're cheating on their partners with each other. So if you could hear them 2 seats away through earplugs and through the plane's noise, then yeah, they were definitely way too loud. I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes, OP. I'm giving them 2.5 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for telling my sister-in-law that she didn't actually run a marathon? I've been a runner for as long as I can remember. I absolutely love it. I want to pursue running as a competitive activity and also as a just-for-fun hobby. I encourage and support newcomers to running, but recently I encountered a situation where I felt gatekeeping was necessary. My sister-in-law got into running last year, and she absolutely fell in love with it as well. Since I'm also a runner, I decided that I could connect with her on this topic. I wanted to hear about her runs, her progress, and maybe offer some helpful guidance if she wanted it. So at a family gathering, I asked her about her running. After a bit of conversation, she mentioned to me that she ran a marathon. I was quite surprised that she ran a marathon after only getting into running a year ago. That's amazing, I thought to myself. What incredible dedication and drive. I was about to praise her for this incredible accomplishment, but then she explained this marathon in detail. It was a virtual marathon where she started late last year and apparently completed this year. Basically, it's an app-based event where you tally up your running distances until you reach 26.2 miles. I chuckled slightly and told her that it's great that she totaled 26.2 miles in that time frame, but it does not count as a marathon. I told her that marathons have a time limit for completion, usually 6 to 8 hours. If they didn't, then I could say that I've run several ultra marathons if you add up all the distances that I've run in my life. It's disingenuous, and in my opinion, it undermines those who have actually run a marathon. She did not take this well. She called me a butthole, a bully, an elitist, and a few other things. I apologize for upsetting her, but I stand by what I said. She didn't run a marathon. I didn't press the subject at all, and I left it at that. She wouldn't speak to me for the rest of the gathering. My wife agrees with me, despite not being a runner herself, and she said that her sister overreacted. Their mother said that I should have just let my sister-in-law believe that she ran a marathon. Maybe, I don't know. She's 23 years old and without any impairments. Validating her marathon would feel similar to lying to a child to boost their confidence. The difference is, she's not a child. Am I the butthole? You know, down in the comments, people are really resoundingly saying not the butthole, but I'm not sure if I agree with you on this one. If she had just rolled in and said, I just ran a marathon, aren't I so cool, and left it at that, then I'd be on your side. But she immediately volunteered that she didn't actually mean a literal marathon. She just meant that so far she's run a total amount equaling a marathon. You know, she clarified it all by herself. So for you to say, well, actually, that's not a real marathon. It's like, yeah, she just said it's not a real marathon. She said that she broke it up and that it's an app-based thing. Like, were you not listening? My wife has a Fitbit that she wears, and, you know, she's always running around after the kid during the day. So sometimes she'll be like, my day was so exhausting. Look, I had, 7,000 steps today. That's like running 2 miles or whatever. I understand that she didn't actually run 2 miles. She's just trying to convey to me that she, has been running around a lot after the kid all day. And there's this other app online that you can download where it tracks your progress of how far you travel and compares it to the journey of Frodo Baggins on his way from the Shire to Mordor. So, eventually you walk to Mordor and you can say, hey, I walked to Mordor. Isn't that cool? Well, we understand that you're not actually walking to Mordor. You're not actually fighting off Nazgul and trolls and Shelob the giant spider, okay? We get it. I hate to say this, but you're kind of giving Redditor energy. Well, technically, sir, this is not a marathon because a marathon has a 6 to 8 hour time limit. Yeah, okay, we get it, OP, we get it. So I'm giving your sister 0 out of 5 buttholes. All she did was say, hey, look, I downloaded an app, and according to the app, I've run as many miles as a marathon, which is true, and she's hyped and excited. And you're just bursting her bubble for no reason by being needlessly meticulous and pedantic. So I'm giving you 0.5 out of 5 buttholes. So I don't know. Normally when I disagree with the comments, people in the YouTube comments blast me for being wrong. So am I wrong about this? I just feel like OP is being, negative for no reason, gatekeeping for no reason, and there's no gain to pointing out a technicality that she already pointed out herself. You know what I mean? That was rSlash Am I the Butthole. And if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.